Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to the Post Up with David Grubb right here on Boot Crew Media. I am glad to be with you. I know missed obviously last Thursday's show as I was traveling, so greetings from 1,007 miles to the north. I'm now north of Chris Connor, so I'm the most northernmost member of Boot Crew at this point. But Chris is about 3 hours to the south, so I'm sure we will link up at some point in the near future. But plenty to talk about today as the New Orleans Pelicans have moved to 2-1 in the preseason after last night's 2-point loss in Birmingham to the Houston Rockets. Now, the story of the day certainly is the injury to Kevon Looney. Um, the injury, which they say is his knee, but it's characterized more commonly. What you would hear it is called the high ankle sprain. It is, essentially a high ankle sprain. Now, this is the reality of it. The Pelicans have said they're going to reevaluate this in 2 to 3 weeks. That's not going to be the case. I just you take the fact that typically for athletes, because this is a running injury, this is something you have to be able to do. It's very hard to put weight on your ankle when you have this injury. It's very hard to run. It's very hard to stabilize. So if you take somebody with Kevon Looney's size with this kind of injury, and the typical time is closer to 6 weeks. I think you have to look around 6 to 8 weeks before Kevon Looney is returning. And if you look in his career, this is not the first ankle injury he's had on the left ankle. Back in 2020, he injured his left ankle and was gone for 10 games. And he has a left hip injury from the year before, where he missed the vast majority of the season. I think he only played 20 games that season. So the year that he had his ankle injury, he played about 62 games and started at 34, put up the worst numbers of the last 5 seasons, even though he's had 2 seasons where he played fewer minutes. The numbers in that season were the worst of the last 5 seasons. And then before that, he had a season where he only played 20 games due to a left hip injury. So that's what's concerning to me when you talk about the Kevon Looney injury, is that it's on his left side where all of his injuries have been. So you have to wonder what kind of strain has been put on his body in that regard, and whether or not um, this season, you're looking at something that could become something that's a chronic situation for Kevon Looney. That was a concern for a lot of people. I know that people on Boot Crew mentioned that it was Kevon Looney an old 29, but you looked over the last 4 seasons and he had been one of the most durable players in the league. So this is not a surprising injury. I mean, obviously it came during the Australia trip. It's a surprising injury for somebody who's been so durable, but it wasn't out of the realm of possibility given his medical history. So you just have to hope that he recovers as quickly as possible and that he's back somewhere in November. That it doesn't spill into December with this injury, but it could if we're talking about the kind of injury that this is. It is just one of those ones that is really hard to rehab. The only thing you can do is rest it, and ice it and heat it up and do those things. I mean, like that's all you can do. So you can't, do much else while this recovery happens. So it's just how much can he take, and then if do you want him to come back early and rush and maybe not be available down the stretch? Remember, the Pelicans do have a team option at the end of this season. So if he isn't available to play, certainly the Pelicans, would probably exercise that option. But for the immediate purposes, this is a bad thing for the New Orleans Pelicans, a team that struggles to rebound. When you look at last night in particular, the Rockets had 5 players with at least 5 rebounds. The Pelicans had 2. When you talk about the players who had at least 3 rebounds in the front court, it was Yves Missi. So it's like when you look at this team, it struggled to rebound last year where it finished 26th. The previous 3 years under Willie Green, they had never finished lower than 16th in rebounding. So now you have a team that last year was in the bottom quartile in rebounding, and this year you're still undersized with only 2 players in your main rotation taller than 6'10". You are injured at the position you had the least amount of depth in, with Kevon Looney out and Derek Queen still out. So you don't have a tremendous amount of depth. You're looking at a center position now, and we'll talk about Yves Missi in a moment, but it's Missi, Matkovic, who also left the game with an injury, and it's elbow soreness. And for a guy that you're counting on to shoot the basketball, that you were counting on to be the stretch big for this team, this is a concern. And this whole summer, the one thing I was looking for was the Pelicans to make another move for somebody with some length and some athleticism. You saw a lot of available centers that would have been low cost, but could have done the job. Like we talked about, whether it was a Chris Boucher, whether it was a Thomas Bryant, there were a number of centers who were out there who wouldn't have cost a lot of money that the Pelicans could have on their roster right now. But now you're looking at a team that is very limited when it comes to size in the front court and that has struggled to rebound in the preseason, even in the Australia games where they were matched rebounding in those games pretty much. Now, the second game was a blowout. It didn't matter. But in that first game, they were pretty much even in rebounding. And then last night, they were out rebounded, both on the offensive and the defensive glass, gave up a lot of second chance points, which was a huge problem last season. Even Missi, who is a very good offensive rebounder, as we saw, and finished with a double-double last night, still continues to get beat on the defensive glass when he faces bigger centers. And that's why Kevon Looney was so important, because Yves Missi is not the physical center that he could potentially be as he grows into his body. Certainly he's gained weight from last season, but against Steven Adams and Alperen Sengun last night, there was no match. He was not a match for them physically. So when you look for who's available now, there's not a decent center out there. Maybe you could get a Rashawn Holmes, as a free agent, because he's still out there. Christian Wood is out there. And, but I Christian Wood, certainly Detroit, Joe Dumars and Troy Weaver know about Christian Wood. I don't know if they'd be interested in having him, but there's just not a lot of experience out there. Bol, maybe it's Bol's time, but bigs are not there. And this, I think, was the one thing that Joe Dumars, if you're going to give him a huge negative for this offseason, it's not taking care of the front court. Because you didn't go exorbitant and get Kevon Looney. You paid $9 million, which for a starting center right now in the NBA is about half of what a good starting center is going for. So you didn't invest in the center position. It's the least amount of money you spend on this roster is at the center position. And you can say, well, the center is look in the Western Conference. How many centers and power forwards with strength and athleticism and height are you going to face on a nightly basis? And this was already a team that was suspect with it defensively, even with the size. You were still a team that was going into this season trying to rebuild one of the worst defenses in the NBA last year, and a group that has not played together extensive minutes. You've gone 6 straight preseason games without seeing the Pelicans starting lineup together, and it'll be 8. 7. It'll be 7 after Thursday's game against the Magic. So over the last 2 seasons, the Pelicans have not for 1 minute been able to put their intended starting lineup on the floor in the preseason. So what kind of impact do you think that has on a regular season? If they can't play together on the court when it counts against teams, and you can say preseason, but it's competitive, it is real basketball situations, then if they can't do that for a team that overhauled this roster in a number of ways and has to count on this defense to be a cohesive unit, for players to cover for each other, Herb Jones can't be 5 defenders. You saw Zion Williamson play good defense and active defense. Sadiq Bey has played good active defense. But when we get to Jordan Poole, we're going to talk about Jordan Poole. And Jeremiah Fears, for all his things, we'll talk about him. But defensively, no. You saw what the Houston front court did to the Pelicans. It was 2 different games last night, right? There were the first 3 quarters. They're the first 3 quarters where the starters played, and that was a game. And then the fourth quarter where the Rockets had such a lead, anything goes. What happened happened. It's entertaining. You want to see players fight for it, but that wasn't the game. That wasn't the game. The game was the first 3 quarters when the Rockets bigs were embarrassing the Pelicans, either from the perimeter, on the glass. That's the story of the game, right? Is the problems in the front court. Zion Williamson, offensively, against a front court with a lot of length, didn't have a really big scoring night, didn't get to the free throw line a lot. That tends to happen to him when he doesn't have, when they're able to put three guys 6'10" in the paint and he doesn't have any driving lanes, because also the Pelicans weren't making shots last night while he was in the game. So you put that combination, length, athleticism, scoring ability on the other team against a team that is shorter, smaller, with less depth in the front court in the Western Conference. That's going to be a problem, right? Does that mean all hope is lost? No. But Joe Dumars has to fix this. He has to find something to plug the hole in the levee, right? Like, you cannot let this thing break because you can't rebound. Who's your best rebounder right now? It's Yves Missi. Beyond that, there's not a single player that you're calling a rebounder. They're guys who can get some boards. But when you need the rebound, when you need that at the end of the game, when you're trying to make that stop and you need somebody to get on the defensive glass and close it out, you confident? You confident against the best teams right now? Are you confident that the Pelicans can secure that rebound? If they got the last shot, they might make it. But if they need to get the last rebound in the game, last rebound, right now it's hard to think that they're going to get it. And this was something that could have been avoided. There were centers available that were free agents. I'm not talking about you had to make a trade. There were centers available as free agents. Maybe you got to call Dwight Howard at this point. Maybe you got to call Dwight. Because if you're telling me Dwight can't rebound, Dwight just want to play. Dwight just wants to play. So maybe you got to call Dwight Howard. Because you think he won't be motivated to prove that he belongs in the NBA again? He would get minutes. Could he be worse at defensively than anybody on the Pelicans roster right now? Defense at the center position. So, I think that it's something the Pelicans, they've got to get this right. They've got to find. You're going to see it against Orlando, and Orlando's probably not going to. Orlando's not going to play their starters very long, if at all. But they still, even on their bench, have a lot of height. So, what are you going to do? So I see E-Dog saying trade for Kessler or sign Dwight. I mean, like, you know what the price is for Kessler. You don't have the picks. The Pelicans don't have the picks. If the Pelicans need to get Kessler, they'd have to get a third team involved and find a way to do that. And who are you going to give up with a third team? You'd have to give up something good now. So, I mean, I think, like, look, who tell me somebody who would be better than Dwight Howard right now to play 10 to 12 minutes for the Pelicans? Maybe even 14. You tell me. Anybody in the chat who got somebody better? Like I said, you might be somebody that you prefer, but for that many minutes, defensively and rebounding, and that's all you're asking for, right? Because you're trying to replace Kevon Looney. So if you're trying to, can Dwight do what Kevon was going to do? Can Dwight set screens? Can Dwight finish? Can you put Dwight in the dunker spot? Maybe it don't sound so crazy, especially when you're desperate. Especially when you're desperate. And the Pelicans are desperate. They're desperate for a number of reasons, and you all know them. The Pelicans are desperate for a number of reasons because if they get off to a bad start, it's going to be very hard to make up ground this season. If they get off to a bad start, Willie Green could get fired. So he knows that. If they get off to a bad start, Joe Dumars is going to take a lot of heat from the national media because it's going to start indicating that everybody was right, that he shouldn't have given up those picks in the upcoming draft. So the Pelicans are under a tremendous amount of pressure. Everybody has written them off. You've seen it in the media the last couple of days. Everyone has written this team off, right? So what are they going to do? What are they going to do? What are they going to say? I mean, any of the like, okay, Alex Lynn, is he better than Dwight Howard? I think they were on sharp side. I think they were on sharp side. And I think Charles Bassey may have signed too. Any of those better than Dwight? No. That's where the Pelicans are right now in the center market. That's where they are. That's where they are. And I mean, okay, adapt. Let's go. But look, I do want to give credit for last night for Jeremiah Fears and Yves Missi. Yves Missi, all 3 games in the preseason, has been very, very good. He has played really well. He has been solid at blocking shots. He has run the floor. You saw the bad Eve at the start of the Houston game with him missing the putback dunk, which is you're just like, man, come. You've seen that plenty of times. And then the other miss on the putback where you got the goaltending call. It's like those were the rookie mistakes. But for the rest of the night, once he hit that little running hook shot, he looked great. I mean, we already talked about him getting beat physically on the boards, but if you're going to get that from him every night, you take it. For what you've spent as far as that position goes and his age and his development, if that's what Eve is going to give you every night this season, give me that. We'll take 82 games of that, right? The kid's durable. He is active. Still has plenty to learn, but centers typically do. Centers don't hit their stride till year 4, year 5. When did Joel Embiid go from good player to MVP? When you watch a center, look at Jokic. As quick as that ascent was, it wasn't year 1, year 2. You started recognizing it. And I'm not putting that kind of pressure on Yves Missi, but I'm just saying the best is yet to come for him, considering where he is in his career and what the effort is that he's shown. So I think that for Eve, this has been a fantastic preseason. I think you feel confident about his minutes. Now, do you think he should play 38 minutes a night? That's not in anybody's best interest. That's not in his, and that's not in the Pelicans. Which is why, if you want to rewind, you can go back and you can see us talk about the centers. But for what he is, you have to be completely satisfied with Yves Missi at this point in his career. Completely satisfied. There are holes in his game. He needs to improve. But when he was drafted, do you think he would be this right now? Jeremiah Fears, who has been very good at some points, he's shown you the things that again, I've said it before. I think he is a franchise type player. A franchise type player. He's got the mental makeup, he's got the skill set, he has the athletic gifts. He's not Derrick Rose as far as the explosiveness or things like that, but he is extremely quick. You see that. And he will get stronger. But in a game that was up tempo and the floor was, they were running and he got all the run because Jordan Poole fouled out. And we've seen Jeremiah Fears. We've seen it to his detriment at times in this preseason in summer league where he just takes shots. But the moniker of No Fears is apt. He will take whatever shots are available to him. And I like the confidence. I like the athleticism. Again, I like the ability to seize the moment. He knew it was his. When they put the ball in his hands, he looked at the bench. There wasn't nobody to take him out. He took advantage of those minutes. What was his quarter? Say quarter and a half. He just did what he was supposed to do, and I think you still have to be very encouraged, but at the same time, he's not ready to run a team. And there will be really good nights for Jeremiah Fears, and there will be embarrassing nights for Jeremiah Fears because he's not a good defender yet. He's just not strong enough, and he's not doesn't have the instincts. He's not seen enough. I'm saying like he was in high school, like he skipped a year of high school. Okay, so he's not played a lot of defense, so he's not ready to play defense. I'm not again. These are not long-term concerns. This is just where we are at this point in his career and this point in the season. He's not a good defender. He still makes some bad decisions as a passer. He rushes things at times. You can see where he's caught between thoughts. Should I take this shot? Should I pass this ball? And by the time he figures it out, sometimes either he's taking a rough shot in some other games or he's taking a pass or, a poor pass. The Pelicans have struggled with creating shots this entire preseason. Last night, of all the games in the NBA, the Pelicans had the lowest assist percentage. And that's in a night they scored 128 points. They do not have someone capable of running this team at the guard position currently. And you have to have some issue with Jordan Poole. Yeah. Again, it's not time to push the panic button here, but there have been people all off season who have been like, why are you talking so negatively about Jordan Poole? I'm not talking negatively about Jordan Poole. What I said was, there in everybody's game, there are flaws. These are Jordan Poole's. Here are the areas that he's better than CJ McCollum. In the pick and roll, he's better than CJ McCollum. He's faster. He finishes better at the rim. He gets to the free throw line frequently. He got to the free throw line last night. He will shoot. He shot his. He's taking the attempts that he's supposed to take. In the open court, it is very hard to stop him. He is a very good finisher. At least can get to the basket and finish. But in this preseason, he's not shot the ball well. He's not run the offense. He's not played good defense. He fouled out, and you could say it was on the refs. He plays defense with his hands. He doesn't play defense with his feet. He plays defense with his hands. He's got to be more disciplined as a defender. That has not been his strong suit. Even when he was with the Warriors, some of their worst defensive units were the ones that he was in. Now, he can be a better team defender. He has the physical skills. He has the wingspan. He can be a better defender. And he probably will get better as the year goes on. But right now, you are seeing what it looks like for Jordan Poole when it's not right. Now, how long that lasts, it could be done by opening night. He could step out opening night and just be looking great. But I'm just letting you know that when it does look bad, for whatever many games it does, if it's 5 games, whether it's 2 games, whether it's 1/4 of any game, I don't know. But when it does look bad, this is what it's going to look like. This is what it's going to look like. Because over 3 games in this preseason, he's shooting below 25% from 3. He's shooting below 40% from 2. And ain't going to get it done. You played 2 Australian teams and you played against the Rockets and you fouled out quickly. So you weren't playing against elite guards here. When you did against the Rockets, yeah, you played against, men is over there and all those, but Jordan Poole, right? This is what everybody was excited about. That is Jordan Poole. So what's the expectation? The expectation is that this is going to be a 20-plus point scorer, and he's going to do it efficiently. He hasn't done that yet this preseason. Again, that doesn't mean to push the panic button. But these are the things you're looking at in the preseason. If we're going to give Jeremiah Fears credit for the way he finished last night, if we're going to give Yves Missi credit for the way he's played in this preseason, if we're going to like the fact that Trey Murphy has been taking it to the basket and finishing and looking good in the open court and playing a little bit selfishly offensively at times, which I like, because that's what you have to be a great scorer. You got to be a little selfish. So I'm fine with Trey Murphy being a little selfish. There are good things that you've seen in this preseason. There's a lot of reasons to be encouraged about the New Orleans Pelicans. But the fact of the matter is, the Pelicans do have holes, just like they have every year. And what is strange as hell to me is you changed administrations, and it's the same two positions: point guard, center. Why is this a problem for this franchise? Why do they undervalue the point guard position and the center position? Because Jordan Poole is not a point guard. He's going to play lead guard. Herb Jones is not a point guard. Trey Murphy's not a point guard. Even Zion is not a point guard. He can run the offense, but he's at times you can create for others, but he's not a point guard. DeJounte Murray didn't play well at point guard last year. You're counting on Jeremiah Fears at 18. So Pelicans' upside is what it is. The upside is what it is. Again, I said the high watermark would be 44 wins in that area, 43, 44 wins. That's the high watermark. And considering, again, that they won 21 games last year, if they improve by 22, 23 games, nobody should be complaining as far as the win total. You may complain about something else, but you can't complain about the win total if they improve by 23 games. The low end, I said 36. Because of these kinds of concerns. Can they rebound when it counts? Can they make shots when it counts? Because they have not shot the ball well in the preseason. Sadiq Bey has shot it well. Jose Alvarado kind of shot it well. Jeremiah Fears shot it well inside, but he hasn't shot well from three. Trey Murphy hasn't even really been hot from threes. So they haven't shot it well. They haven't rebounded well. Pelicans, in this last game against Orlando, all you really need to see is what kind of effort that all these players come back with. Because for a lot of these guys, with Hunter Dickinson, who probably will now get to, as long as they haven't signed anybody, will probably get an extended opportunity with that two-way to try to earn some minutes. He needs to show that he can play some defense. His reputation is as an offensive player. So we'll see if he can, defend. Can he make shots too? Because somebody's going to have to do it in that front court spot. Everybody in the front court has to, can't be limited to 5 feet from the bucket. Not everybody. You got to have some kind of, curveball to throw. So, that's a concern for the Pelicans. Point guard, who's going to play consistently and lead this team, and center. Where are you going to find 7 feet? Because again, you look at this roster, no Carlo, 6'10". No Looney, 6'9". You got 6'11" Missi and Hunter Dickinson at 7'1". And Derek Queen is 6'9". It's a problem in the East. I mean, the West. All right, that's going to do it. I don't see any questions in the chat, but I really do appreciate it. I'm glad that I got the opportunity to do this, and that I still continue to get the opportunity to do this podcast. Again, thank you to everybody at Boot Crew for working with me and letting me stay as a part of the team. And I appreciate the fans for continuing to follow as well as we do this. But make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you share, and continue to follow on social media at DM Grub. Until the next time, I should be back either this time next week or maybe even a Sunday, in the near future to do some shows on nights or Fridays, when Pelicans don't have a game. So until the next time, I'm David Grubb. Y'all are you. Thank you so much. This has been the Post Up on Boot Crew Media. Y'all have a good one.